Good morning. Welcome to you all to the opening session of this virtual building for journalists on content-centric journalism and countering hate speech. We have a full house now. Before we start the process formally, I would ask that we pray silently in our own ways so we can begin. Thank you. Thank you very much. I am 𝐓𝐡𝐞, a journalism trainer, and part of the trainers that are conducting this particular training. I would like to recognize the presence of Landre, who is the director for the International Press Center and Media. With us also we have 𝐜𝐴Z𝐥𝐿, who is the advisor for communication and information for the UNESCO regional office in Dakar. We also have the president of the Gambian Press Union, Mr. Mohamed Esba, and we have Mr. Hassan Tanga, the permanent secretary at the office of the president, who is representing the Secretary General and the head of the civil service at this gathering. And also the Honorable Minister of Information and Communication Infrastructure, Mr. 𝐸𝐴Z𝐥𝐿, and as well the UN Resident Coordinator, Ms. Serafine Wakama. Amongst us also present here is Madame Delafay, seated there on my left. She is the coordinator for the Peace Building Fund under the UN Resident Coordinator's Office, which is supporting 3 UN projects that are funding this kind of initiative. Thank you all and welcome. We have a diverse set of participants. We would have loved for each of them to introduce where they're from and the media houses, but it may take some time. So I would just state that the participants here today are from all media platforms, from the online media, from radio stations, from TV stations, and also from the community media. This is the second batch of 25 journalists that we are training on this particular topic. The first training was held from the 1st to the 3rd of February. Thank you. So we begin with the welcome remarks from the director of the International Press Center, Mr. Landre.
Good morning, all. Good morning.
Good morning.
I thought you didn't want to answer me because it's a Nigerian speaking. I didn't know that the protocol for opening ceremonies in the Gambia is for men to wear suits. You want me to sit down? Okay, thank you. I should have also put on a suit. Well, thank you very much. Once the names of the dignitaries have been mentioned, in Nigeria, we'll say that all protocols observed, or that we are standing on the existing protocols. So because of time, I will not mention everybody on the high table, but I will just say I stand on the existing protocol. And to deliver this welcome address, my full names are Lanre Arugundade. I'm the Executive Director of International Press Center. The International Press Center, Lagos, Nigeria, is very delighted to facilitate this training on conflict-sensitive journalism and countering hate speech on behalf of UNESCO Gambian office. International Press Center is Nigeria's leading media development and press freedom organization based in Lagos, the largest media hub of Nigeria. IPC's activities are, however, spread across Nigerian states and regions, while it is also an active player in the media development sector across West Africa. Thus, the organization has sustained relationships and collaboration with press unions and media sector organizations in the Gambia, Liberia, Ghana, Sierra Leone, and Burkina Faso, particularly as a member of the African Freedom of Exchange and the Nigerian national partner of the Media Foundation for West Africa. The vision of IPC is a Nigerian, West African, and African media that serves as major catalyst of development. And we therefore engage in capacity building, publish media resource books, engage in advocacy and campaigns in the areas of democracy and good governance, freedom of expression, conflict-sensitive journalism, and many others. This training on conflict-sensitive journalism and countering hate speech for 50 Gambian journalists is not only timely, but also necessary, and the reasons for this assertion are not far-fetched. Across and within African boundaries, there seems to be renewed explosion of multidimensional conflicts, including but not limited to insurgencies, religious extremism, terrorism, banditry, coups and counter-coups. The conflicts are pervasive and do extend to electoral processes and elections, as has often been the case in my own country like Nigeria. And I'm sure that here in the Gambia, you must have seen elements of such conflicts before, during, and after the recent presidential election. These conflicts not only pose major threats to peaceful coexistence among the people, and indeed the survival of democracy, as well as the sustenance of democratic values, they also sometimes constitute impediments to press freedom, media independence, freedom of expression, and the exercise of journalistic rights. Journalists have died in conflict crossfires, as was the case with 𝐜𝐡𝐞 𝐈𝐧𝐭 of Channels Television, Nigeria, who was shot dead while trying to conduct interview during a religion-related clash in northern Nigerian city of Kano, and Zakara Isa of the Nigerian Television Authority, who was gunned down by Boko Haram insurgents in Maiduguri, northeast of Nigeria, both in 2012. During the 𝐓𝐡𝐞 youth uprising a year ago in Nigeria, 2 television stations, TVC in Lagos and AIT in Benin City, and 1 newspaper, The Nation in Lagos, were touched by hoodlums, and the journalists and other media professionals molested. Reports by international media freedom, freedom of expression, and human rights groups have consistently shown that journalists are killed during or because of violent conflicts. All the above should serve as constant reminder that the media have major stake in proper conflict management, and therefore should avoid situations in which it is seen as being responsible for violent conflicts, as was the case during the Kenyan and Nigerian presidential elections in 2007, when the media in these 2 countries allowed bias and hate speech to creep into their headlines and editorial content with negative consequences. Conflicts, it must be emphasized, are sometimes inevitable and normally present many challenges for the media, which is why capacity building programs like this are major imperative. But among the challenges is the provision of adequate resources and protection of journalists' welfare, as it is the media that governments and the people rely on to establish the truth about the causes and perpetrators of conflicts. However, no matter how difficult the challenge, the role of the media is to help de-escalate and contribute to the resolution of conflicts whenever they become inevitable. This is what the social responsibility theory of the media teaches, by charging the media to contribute to the fostering of productive societies or communities. The root of conflict-sensitive reporting journalism, therefore, lies in this social responsibility theory, and it obligates the media to set high or professional standards of informativeness, truth, accuracy, objectivity, and balance, and avoid whatever might lead to crime, violence, or civil disorder. It is also along the line of these principles that the media should help to counter hate speech, as the example of Rwanda has shown us that it is one of the surest roads to violent conflicts. As we should know, the problem of hate speech has been aggravated by the unwelcome phenomenon of fake news, which often come through the twin channel of disinformation and misinformation. The foregoing offers reasons why in the next 3 days, we shall be exploring various means by which we can improve our conflict sensitivity in reporting democratic governance issues and the associated conflicts, while avoiding the slippery terrain of hate speech. We shall also examine and practice the use of various tools and techniques of fact-checking so that we can enhance our skills in detecting fake news, fake photos, fake videos, and the rest of them. Those of you gathered here today must therefore consider yourselves privileged to have been chosen among many to participate in the training exercise. The only way by which you can be properly thankful to UNESCO Gambia is to utilize the time productively by paying reasonable attention and applying the knowledge gained in your post-workshop reporting. That way, you can contribute to the promotion of peace in the Gambia by helping to build productive Gambian societies and communities. I thank you for your attention and welcome you all.
Thank you very much, Gambe. Before we move to the next speaker, I would also like to recognize the presence of Mr. Lamine Behate, the UNESCO Project Officer in Banjul, as well as Mr. Abdullah Baji, the Communication Officer for the UN Resident Coordinator. We move on to the next speaker, the President of the Gambian Press Union, Mr. Mohamed Esper.
Thank you. Good morning. I wish to also observe the existing protocols as the previous speaker stated. My name is Mohammed Ba, the president of the Gambian Press Union. The Gambian Press Union wishes to express our gratitude to the partners who organized this very important and timely training. This is timely and very important indeed, because we all know that the Gambia came from a presidential election. And during the campaign, we have all witnessed what has been happening. We've seen how politicians were spreading hate speech, and some media fraternity or some media houses amplifying it. However, I would want to commend some of our colleagues who decided not to entertain any form of hate speech and by extension flagging it. Now that we are approaching the National Assembly election, which is slated for April 9th, 2022, I believe the media have more work to do in ensuring that hate speech is countered and also making sure there is a continuous fact-checking throughout the electoral process. The media is so significant in ensuring there is free, fair, credible, and transparent election through which people can make an informed decision. As journalists, there is a need to understand a conflict, its causes, and the negative consequences it brings to our society. We are also required to know various actors in the conflict and try to be as diverse as possible in our reporting so as not to be seen as biased. We need to report the facts as journalists and avoid sensationalizing issues of conflict when they arise. Instead, we should focus on issues that matter. While reporting the negative aspects of conflict, which may include human rights violation, journalists should also seek ideas about peaceful resolution to a particular conflict. As journalists, we should also seek to amplify the voices of external actors in a conflict who are seeking to find a lasting solution. Such voices could be from civil society organizations, faith-based leaders, and other influential community leaders. In conclusion, I wish to encourage participants to take the training seriously by coming to the venue on time, participating in the discussions and the exercises, and at the end of the training, please kindly utilize the knowledge and skills gained in conflict-sensitive journalism and countering hate speech by applying it in your daily reporting. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mohammed Ezra, Islamic Gambian Press Union. We'll now have a statement by Mr. Santana, the Permanent Secretary at the Office of the President, to speak on behalf of the Secretary General and Head of the Civil Service.
Good morning, all. I might not stand on the existing protocols. I have to say good morning to the Honorable Minister of Information, Communication and Infrastructure, and our colleague from Senegal, one from Nigeria, and Mrs. Sarah Wakana. And let me also apologize on behalf of the Honorable Secretary General and Head of Civil Service. Monday is our busy day at the Office of the President. He would have loved to be here with us, but he delegated and let me come and read the statement on his behalf. I bring all warm greetings from the Office of the Secretary General and Head of the Civil Service. I'm pleased and honored to grace this important capacity building exercise on behalf of the Honorable Secretary General, Mr. Noah Toure, who would have loved to be here in person, but he is currently engaged with other present state engagements. Before going further, let me commend the United Nations system in the Gambia for the continued support and collaboration with the government of the Gambia in areas of critical importance in the democratic reform process. Thanks to the support of the UN through the Peace Building Fund, the government of the Gambia has made commendable progress in sustaining peace, particularly in the areas of transitional justice, constitutional review, judicial service reform, and the security sector reform. And we are all aware that the security sector reform is ongoing and other reforms. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, participants, the democratic media reform is high on the agenda of President Barrow's administration. Since 2017, the government of President Adama Barrow has been embarking on a comprehensive reform of the media sector in collaboration with relevant partners and stakeholders. This reform is to support and strengthen the government, the Gambian media sector, to contribute effectively to the democratic transition process of the country. The reform looks into key issues such as legal, policy reform, media capacity building, and institutional development of the national media, among others. Therefore, this capacity building of journalists on conflict-sensitive reporting and countering hate speech is indeed in line with the media reform agenda of the government. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, it is our belief that no matter how conducive the media environment is, if the practitioners do not have adequate capacity, the media reform will come to nothing. Thus, there is need for journalists to build their capacity building in order to deliver news, which is accurate and impartial. It is only through responsible journalism that we can avoid conflict and instability. No journalist can doubt the capacity of the media to do great harm when it is under the control of fanatical and ruthless forces. Editors and reporters should guard against some form of speech that degrade, intimidate, or incite violence, or prejudicial action against others. Therefore, the government of the Gambia is pleased to be associated with this training because it is designed to address real and potential challenges of conflict-sensitive reporting in a fragile democracy and partisan society like ours, the Gambia. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, the rising incident of fake news, let me pause here and just give you a story when I was coming. And on the radio, it was mentioned that 2 Europeans were arrested at Denton Bridge with guns. And the journalists have to write a rejoinder. And it was confirmed that those guys, they work for a company, Trident Company. Those are, normally when you understand the Gulf of Guinea, ships are attacked in that area, the pirates. Those guys are working for a company. And the journalists have to write a rejoinder. I don't know which journalists. These are the things that can cause panic, can cause sudden, not outcome, but panic, instability. These are the things that people need to confirm their stories before. You can call the PRO, you can, institutions are PRO, confirm your news before at least you publish it. Because the moment it goes viral, it can cause panic. Imagine you say somebody's arrested with a gun, and all Europeans and everything, sometimes it could be, if you are not within confined of the area, if you are seen walking outside, people will interpret that these guys are here for something. And so in most cases, confirm your news before at least you write and say this is happening. And that is an appeal to you. We have the potential or to jeopardize our national unity and stability. That's on a local context. When you give fake news, and the other speaker just mentioned fake news, what it can do to the community. But definitely I'm confident that the training like this would adequately equip the journalists with adequate degree of skills to establish, clarify the framework, tools, techniques, and step of checking and combating hate speech. The aspiration not to promote or incite discrimination is one of the cardinal principles of ethical journalism. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, journalists, media organizations should reaffirm editorial independence and the right of journalism to report freely. But such freedom of expression must be balanced against the protection of the right of others. Material that incite hatred should be avoided. Hate speech poses grave dangers for the cohesion of democratic society, the protection of human rights, and the rule of law. If left unaddressed, it can lead to violence in a wider scale. In our context, it can lead to instability. And let me not bore you with this long statement. Let me conclude and to thank the UNESCO for organizing this training. And it's timely, and as the other speakers said from Nigeria, it's also necessary. We are going into a road into the presidential election. The training was not conducted, but as Mr. Bal said, I mean, definitely you comforted yourself, and there was no hate speech, and you controlled, made that the reporting was fair and balanced. We can say that, and there were no hate speech. So I thank the journalists for this, for their composure, their performance, their professionalism during the presidential election. We expect the same professionalism going to the parliamentary elections. On this note, let me thank all of you for your kind attention.
Thank you very much, Mr. Tangara. We'll move on to the next speaker. Remarks from the United Nations Resident Coordinator, Ms. Serafin Wakana.
Thank you, MC, for giving me the floor. Honorable Minister of Information, the Director of International Press Center, President of the Gambian Press Union, the representative of the SPD, the Office of the President, dear participants, media, and all protocol duty observed. It's always a pleasure for me to stand here as the representative of the UN Secretary General in the Gambia, and also representing the UN system in the Gambia. And it's a pleasure for me to deliver this keynote at the opening of this important training of media professionals on conflict-sensitive journalism and countering hate speech. Here, really to commend UNESCO. You know, UNESCO is a non-resident agency in the Gambia, but they are sitting in the car, but we really experience their support. And this is, I think, a second training session for journalists. I was there before the presidential elections when the training on the same thematic was administered. So it's a continuity, and we are happy to have this strong partnership with the press, the Gambian Press Union. And then I really commend again the International Press Center for carrying out the training.
Thank you very much.
And warmly welcome you all journalists from print, online, and broadcast media who have agreed to take part of the training. The central concept of conflict-sensitive reporting is that violent conflict attracts intense news media that requires greater analytical depth and skills to report on it without contributing to furthering violence or overlooking peace-building opportunities. This training is being carried out within the framework of a broader project financed by the UN Secretary General's Peacebuilding Fund that aims to encourage young women and men to play active roles in ensuring peace-building democratic processes and to be advocating for the prevention of violence and hate speech. This training is designed to establish the foundations and imperative of conflict-sensitive reporting and to clarify the frameworks, tools, techniques, and steps of conflict-sensitive journalism. We all bore witness to the nefarious effects of hate speech during recent concluded presidential election campaign. But at the same time, we are thankful that it did not really spiral out of control. And the hateful statements we heard underline the importance of dealing with this issue as a matter of urgency. And that is indeed why the UN, we are here and we are committed to continue supporting journalists and all those who have a role to play so that we can avoid hate speech. But let me also flag that we know that there is a lot of potentials in Gambians to keep peaceful environment. We saw how all Gambians were united around scorpions during the recent AFCON. So it's a pleasure to see that all Gambians were really commending the team and recognizing that the success of the Scorpions is success for everybody. So this should be the spirit in different areas. So we know that a lot of potentials are there, and that's what we need to dig and see how we can apply all those in different ways. So for us, I've said that prior to the election, to the presidential elections, we tried to train the maximum key stakeholders, including the inter-party committee, because politicians have a big role to play, and Gambian Press Union has also played a big role at that time. And UNESCO, we know that they also trained journalists on fact-checking and supported the Gambia Press Union to establish the Gambian's first ever online fact-checking platform. I hope everybody is looking on the factcheckgambia.org, which is a site that I now regularly use when I need to separate fact from fiction in the news. So congratulations for how far you are, and we really hope that you will go further and support Gambians to improve on this. The Gambia is a fledgling democracy and a diverse country of many tribes that is still navigating a delicate transition from authoritarian rule to pluralism. Human rights, sustainable development, and press freedom. All those agendas are so key, but also delicate to manage. So we all saw during the recent presidential election that the Gambia is on right track, but it's also showed that inter-community tensions are still persistent. There are risks of some actors who seek political advantage by pitting tribes against one another, using inflammatory language, hate speech, and even open incitement to violence. Everyone, politicians, religious leaders, community leaders, women, men, and young people, we all have a role to play in putting an end to this practice, including us as donors and partners to the Gambia. So journalists have a particularly important role to play, and your task is very sensitive. You must expose hate speech for what it is, but you should not amplify its message. And you must walk the fine line between countering hate speech and promoting the freedom of speech, which is a fundamental human right. And so you see how tricky is your role. You have to speak out, but you also have to control so that you don't spread the virus. So for us, the UN, the Secretary General has said on numerous occasions that a free press is essential to peace, justice, sustainable development, and human rights. There's no democracy that can function without press freedom, which is the cornerstone of trust between people and their institutions. I would add to that I would add that free and fair reporting is essential to good governance, and that vibrant and responsible media are vital to advancing the goals of democracy, development, rule of law, and respect for diversity. But unfortunately, we are living in an age of misinformation, disinformation, and hate speech, where it can be difficult for an ordinary person to tell the difference between what is true and what is not. This is not just a problem in the Gambia, but worldwide, and journalists are at the front line in this battle. Ensuring that journalists' reporting of conflict is more insightful, comprehensive, balanced is not only critical for avoiding the flaming of division or inciting of hatred in sensitive contexts, but also for promoting understanding and tolerance necessary to positively influence conflict resolution and peace building. With this training, UNESCO and the International Peace Center will equip you with the knowledge, skills, and tools you need to succeed in this new environment. And by succeed, I mean fearlessly reporting the facts, objectively and dispassionately addressing hate speech when and where you encounter it, and doing your utmost to always protect the fundamental and precious human rights, that is freedom of speech. Let me stop here and wish you all most productive training. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Wakana. We move on to the Honorable Minister of Information, Mr. Ibrahim Sila, to give the keynote statement.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I will also stand on the existing protocol, but I will lean on it a little bit to first recognize the presence in our midst of the UNDP or the UN Resident Coordinator, Madam Sarafina, the representative of the UNESCO Regional Director, the Permanent Secretary at the Ministry of, at the President's Office. I still remember him as a Permanent Secretary at the Ministry of Interior. Things move quite fast. And also our trainer from Nigeria, Langley, whom I knew since 2014 when I was working with the UNDP in Nigeria. Yes. Small world.
Sorry.
CPU President, Mr. Jallo, participants, and all other protocols observed. I came to this meeting to listen and also give an opinion on specific issues. But when I realized that everybody is reading from a prepared text, so I started also scripting something together this morning while I was sitting here. So I will read from that, and I will preserve my opinion to this afternoon when I will have a discussion with the president of the GPU on specific concerns that the Gambia government has, especially my ministry, on specific issues of media reporting on the Casamance conflict that we want to sit with the GPU to discuss about, to enhance, media caution, so that you will not be used as agents of misinformation by a group already categorized as a rebel movement, and that is very critical. So we will have that discussion this afternoon, so that those important positions can be clearly spelled out. We can all come to understand what our roles should be in enhancing peaceful coexistence, in defeating those that want to promote and engage in hate speech and hate mongering, those that are already engaged in propaganda. The role of the media is to decipher those things and look critically inwards to enhance peaceful coexistence. But as a departure, let me also take this opportunity to thank the organizers of this training program for the Gambian media, especially UNESCO and its partners through the UN system. This training could not have come at a better time when the Gambia is preparing for the legislative elections, which is expected, as in the case of the presidential election, the stakes, of course, will be very high. And therefore, the role of the media in enhancing peaceful electoral outcomes could not be overemphasized. Even though it is the media's role to provide news and information to the public for them to make informed choices, it is also incumbent upon the media to discharge this duty responsibly and in good faith. The government of the Gambia recognizes and appreciates the tremendous efforts of the Gambian media to enrich our democratic governance. However, the government also notes with concern some emerging trends that are not only undermining media professionalism, but are also threatening national security and our collective peace. These, of course, include acts of providing media platforms to people engaged in brazen disinformation that actually stir incitement of the people to act against constituted authority, or sometimes act in a manner that will undermine national peace and security. It also includes biased reporting on sometimes issues that border on national security, acts of hate-mongering through highly unsubstantiated opinion pieces that are lifted from the social media and produced verbatim in the newspapers or on the online as if they are substantiated truths. The government of the Gambia will continue to work with the Gambian Press Union to promote and enhance media professionalism in combating hate speech and all and any other acts or conducts that may lead to conflict emanating from media reporting. To this end, we enjoin the media owners and media houses and media practitioners to distance themselves from acts that will taint your professionalism. Understanding conflict and how your work can amplify conflicts is critical. That is why we applaud the GPU and its partners for organizing this important training. Please make good use of this training, and from now on, let us see it reflect on your work. The Gambia government, I can assure you, stands ready to support initiatives like this to strengthen the Gambia's democracy and peaceful coexistence. The media is a critical and important part to these efforts. On this note, it is my singular honor to officially declare this training session open. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. That brings us to the end of this official opening of this training, which is organized by the International Press Center and funded by the UNESCO Regional Office in Dakar. We will proceed for a group photo quickly and breakfast. We'll allow the high table to move outside and the participants will follow. So we can have a breakfast just outside the hall. Sorry, a photograph outside the hall. Come on. Run.